Alibaba and the 40 Thieves. Chapter 1. The Treasure Cave. Once upon a time in Persia, there lived two brothers. One was named Qasim, and the other Alibaba. Qasim married a rich woman, but Alibaba was poor. One day, Alibaba was cutting wood in the forest. He saw a group of men coming toward him.
"They must be robbers,"
he said to himself. He climbed a tree to hide. When the horsemen came up, Alibaba counted them. There were 40 men in all. They got off their horses before a black rock. The captain said the words,
"Open sesame!"
A door in the rock magically opened. The men all went inside and the door closed behind them. Alibaba stayed in the tree. After a while, the door opened again. The robbers all came out. Then the captain said,
"Close sesame!"
and the door closed again. Then all the men rode away.
"I must see what's behind that door,"
thought Alibaba. As soon as the men were out of sight, Alibaba climbed down.
"Open sesame!"
he said in front of the rock. The door opened, and Alibaba entered into a large cave. It was full of all kinds of treasure.
Wow! There are rich silks, carpets, gold, silver, and bags of money,
cried Alibaba. He loaded his 3 mules with as many bags as possible. When he was finished, Alibaba said,
"Close sesame!"
and the door closed. He then went straight home. At home, Alibaba told his wife about their good luck. She was really happy. "Let's measure the gold," she said. But she didn't have a measuring stick. She ran to Qasim's wife to borrow one. Qasim's wife was very curious, so she put a little glue on the back of the measuring stick. Alibaba's wife measured the treasure. A piece of gold stuck to the back of the measuring stick. Qasim's wife saw the gold and told her husband. Qasim went to visit Alibaba.
"Please tell me how you got the gold,"
he said. Alibaba then explained about the big black rock.
"I will get some treasure too,"
said Qasim. The next day, Qasim went to the forest. He took a lot of mules with him to carry the treasure.
"Open sesame!"
said Qasim. And sure enough, the door opened. He went in and the door closed. He piled bags of gold near the door. Then he was ready to leave, but he had forgotten the magic words to open the door. He tried to remember for a long time. Finally, the robbers came back to the cave. They saw Qasim inside and rushed into the cave. They pulled out their swords and killed him. Then they cut him into 4 pieces and left him in the cave. That night, Qasim's wife ran to Alibaba. "I'm so worried about my husband," she cried.
"Please don't worry,"
answered Alibaba.
"If he doesn't return by the morning, I'll find him."
In the morning, Alibaba prepared his 3 mules. He then left for the cave. When he entered, he was struck with horror. He quickly carried his brother's body to his house. Alibaba didn't want people to know how Qasim died. Qasim's wife had a servant named Morgiana. She was very smart, so Alibaba asked her to help him.
Please bring Mustafa the tailor to sew up Qasim's body,
ordered Alibaba. Morgiana went to Mustafa in the early morning. She tied a handkerchief over his eyes. Then she took him to Alibaba's house. Mustafa didn't know where he was. Afterwards, Alibaba told the town that Qasim had died of natural causes. Alibaba buried him, and everything remained a secret. In those days, men in Persia had more than one wife. Often, when a husband died, his brother would marry his wife. Alibaba decided to marry his brother's wife. Then no one would be curious about his new treasures. Therefore, Alibaba married Qasim's widow. Then he went to live in her house. Chapter 2. The 40 Thieves. Meanwhile, the robbers returned to their cave. They soon realized that the body was gone.
Someone knows our secret,
cried the captain.
I will go into town,
said one robber.
and find a clue.
By accident, the robber met Mustafa in town. Mustafa told him that he sewed up a dead body.
Show me where you did the sewing,
said the robber.
My eyes were covered,
Explained Mustafa.
so I don't know where the house is.
The robber decided to blindfold Mustafa again. Finally, Mustafa was able to find the house. The robber put an X on the door with chalk. Then he returned to his friends. Shortly after, Morgiana saw the mark on the door. What is this mark? She thought to herself. She feared that something bad might happen. Therefore, she marked all the doors on both sides of the street with the same X. Meanwhile, the robber had reported his success.
We will all go into town,
ordered the captain. The robber took the captain to Alibaba's street. The captain quickly noticed that all the doors had been marked.
We have been tricked.
Said the captain.
I will go myself.
He brought Mustafa and asked him to do the same thing as he did for the robber. Finally, he found Alibaba's house. The captain ordered his men to buy 20 mules and 40 oil jars.
Fill one oil jar and leave the rest empty,
he said. He put a man in each of the empty jars and loaded them onto the mules.
We'll go to town before it gets dark,
he told them. He took his mules to Alibaba's house.
I'm an oil merchant,
he said.
I could not find a place to stay.
You can leave your mules in my yard,
said Alibaba.
and you can sleep in my house.
The captain unloaded the jars in the yard.
When you hear me whistle,
He whispered to each man.
you must come out of the jar.
Morgiana just happened to need some oil. She thought she could take a little from one of the jars. In the yard, she heard a man's voice softly say,
Is it time?
It was from one of the jars. She was shocked, but she kept herself cool. Not yet, but soon, she whispered back. Alibaba is in danger, she thought. She filled a huge kettle with oil. She set it on fire, and the oil began boiling. Then she poured the oil into each jar. It killed each robber inside. After that, she went back to her room. She watched out her window to see what would happen next. A few minutes later, the captain opened his window. He threw stones at the jars. Nothing happened. He was very surprised. He went outside and found all his men dead. He immediately went back to his cave. Morgiana saw the captain run away. She was so happy that she had saved Alibaba's family. The next morning, she told Alibaba what happened. Back in the cave, the captain promised himself that he would have revenge. He changed his appearance and went to town. He rented a warehouse. He filled it with silks and other stuff. He told the townspeople that he was a merchant and his name was Khoja Hassan. Alibaba had a son who was also a merchant. His warehouse was close to Khoja Hassan's. The captain knew this and became friends with the son. One day, the son invited Khoja Hassan to his house to eat dinner. Khoja Hassan went to Alibaba's house. He carried a knife under his shirt. At dinner, he wouldn't eat any salt. At that time in Persia, there was a custom. It was considered wrong to kill a man after sharing salt. Morgiana noticed that their guest wouldn't eat any salt. "I'm sure this is the oil merchant," she thought to herself. She knew she had to protect Alibaba. Morgiana was a great dancer. She often danced for the guests. After the meal, she came to give a performance. She had a tambourine in one hand and a knife in the other. She would place the knife on the chest of each man. She pretended that this was part of the dance. But when she got to Khoja Hassan, she stuck the knife in his chest. He fell dead to the ground.
What are you doing?
Cried Alibaba. "This is the oil merchant," explained Morgiana. "He planned on killing you." She opened his shirt and showed Alibaba his knife.
You saved my life,
said Alibaba. He could not thank her enough. After a while, Alibaba's son married Morgiana. They all lived long, peaceful lives.